Hello and thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. I'm Aaron Porras, here with ILTV's morning briefing. A Hamas official in Lebanon has just been wounded in an attempted car bombing. The terror group has immediately blamed Israel for the attempt on his life, though Israeli leadership has responded by saying, quote, "If we'd been involved, this wouldn't have ended with him lightly wounded," end quote. Mohammed Hamdan was getting into his BMW car in southern Lebanon when a small explosive device under the vehicle exploded. Word is that his leg was amputated in order to save his life. Until now, Hamdan has not been a public figure in Hamas's operations, though he is reportedly involved in the group's activities concerning Israel. At this time, it's unclear why he was targeted or even who targeted him, though Hamas leadership has, as usual, placed the blame on Israel. Israeli Defense Minister Avigdor Lieberman has massively downplayed these accusations, though, saying, quote, "Every day in the Middle East there are dozens of explosions that they try to pin on Israel, so let's not react to this too seriously," end quote. This attack resembles a similar car bombing incident that killed two members of the Palestinian Islamic Jihad group back in 2006 near that same area. Israel was blamed for that attack as well, but again, little evidence suggested as such. New Jersey is now taking a massive stand against the B.D.S. boycott of Israel. The state has just divested all its funds from Denmark's biggest bank, which currently excludes two Israeli defense companies, claiming that they violate the bank's policy on social responsibility. Despite this obvious boycott, the Danske Bank claims that they do not, quote, boycott Israel or Israeli companies as such, nor participate in the B.D.S. campaign. Representatives from the bank say that they in fact do business with other Israeli banks and businesses, but sources say the bank has also signed agreements with a number of Iranian banks as well. This in and of itself doesn't necessarily imply illicit activity, but given the Iranians' regime mission to eradicate Israel, it's certainly a red flag. In addition to New Jersey, both New York and Colorado say the Danish bank violates state B.D.S. laws and have also now divested their funds. Anti-B.D.S. legislation has been ramping up all over the United States in recent years, with nearly half the states passing their own anti-B.D.S. laws. These numbers are certainly adding up too, which means harsh punishments for companies that choose to boycott the state of Israel. After a furious tweet-turned policy from United States President Donald Trump, United States funding to the Palestinian Authority and supporting organizations is now on the chopping block, starting with the United Nations Relief and Works Agency, or UNRWA. In a compromise with advisors, it appears as though the United States will agree to pay out just $60 million of the intended $125 million installment to the agency. Further reports, though unconfirmed, say that the other 52% of the payment and future installments will most likely be conditional on Palestinian involvement in peace negotiations and major changes in policy. UNRWA has come under fire often from Israeli and even international leaders for perpetuating the conflict in the Middle East more than easing it. Among other things, Israel has accused UNRWA of sheltering terrorists and intentionally ballooning the number of Palestinian refugees. In fact, unlike other refugees, Palestinians are able to claim refugee status long after settling in a new area and across generations. Estimates of displaced Arab Palestinians in 1948 came out to roughly 700,000. Today, the number of UNRWA-recognized Palestinian refugees is well over 5 million. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has suggested shutting down the organization and putting the true remaining refugees under the auspices of the UN High Commissioner for Refugees, which deals with nearly all other refugee matters worldwide. United States Ambassador to the UN Nikki Haley supports the Israeli criticisms and has also been pushing for the US to defund UNRWA. But with Secretary of State Rex Tillerson and Defense Secretary James Mattis saying that a complete cutoff would destabilize the region, the compromise seems most likely. An El Al flight heading for Israel from New York has just made an emergency landing in a Canadian Air Force base. The pilot reported major cockpit malfunctions just a few hours after leaving JFK, forcing them to ground in Newfoundland, where the passengers waited 13 hours in sub-zero temperatures for a new plane to take them to Israel. Flight LY008 landed in Canada shortly before 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time this morning. The Canadian Air Force crew was only too happy to host them, but could do very little about the freezing temperatures, which dropped as low as negative 22 degrees Fahrenheit. Passengers and aircrew huddled under blankets to stay warm. The 13-hour wait was undoubtedly excruciating, but luckily everyone's finally on their way back to Israel, where the winter weather is thankfully far less extreme. Despite the unscheduled layover and the long wait time, thankfully everyone aboard is safe and sound, which is always the most important thing. According to Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas yesterday, the PA has been offered a possible peace deal with the city of Abu Dis as the future Palestinian capital. Abu Dis is a large Palestinian town just outside of Jerusalem. Al-Quds University is also located there. It was not confirmed from whom the peace deal came from, but speculation and related comments infer that the deal comes from the United States. Now, aside from the fact that Abbas says he finds the idea offensive, he also made it clear that he will not be taking any deal from the United States anyway, after Trump's recognition of Jerusalem as Israel's capital. Abbas said, quote, "We can say no to anyone, and we have now said no to Trump and others. No, we will not accept his plan. We told him that the deal of the era is a slap of the era. We will repel it," end quote. Abbas is now scheduled to look elsewhere for a backer in brokering a two-state solution, with several nations already trying to take the lead. Israel has consistently denied multilateral initiatives in the past, however, seeking direct negotiations instead. That's all for now. I'm Aaron Porras, and see you later with our main daily broadcast from Israel at 2 p.m. Eastern Time.